And done. Okay. Hey guys, I tried to learn app programming in 30 days. Let's talk about the experience. So I set out to learn app development because I have some app ideas that would be really good and that I haven't seen any apps for before this. Now, I've got a really varied history with programming in general, or coding, but I'll get to that in a second. But I have never tried to make apps in particular. So when I decided that I want to learn and have a look at how this would go, I wanted to do it in a way that would be very approachable for anyone and see what kind of results you can get. Now, the end result ended up being really different from what I was expecting, but we'll get to that in a second. For now, let me just give you a quick rundown of what I've done in the area of coding. So my history with coding is pretty much I studied game design for 1.5 years, dropped out, continued studying with different kinds of online courses using Udemy. That would be a website where you can buy courses for any sorts of subjects, and not as sponsored, by the way. Now, I went a little bit overboard and I wanted to know everything about coding, so I bought all kinds of courses from all different fields of programming. Everything from data science to cybersecurity to software development in various different languages. But in the end, probably none of those courses is further than like 10% done. So I do have the basics of various different coding languages and various different subjects, but other than that, I'm barely more capable than a complete beginner. With all that in mind, the method I chose to go for this was very simple. So my plan was to buy a course in a certain kind of Android app development language and do that course for 1 hour every day for 30 days. Now, I would not be doing anything outside the course, which, if you know anything about programming, that's probably not the best approach because there's a lot that you want to troubleshoot and find out for yourself. But that was the best way that I could come up with to make this as accessible to anyone. Now, I chose this course to follow. Why this one, you ask? Because one of the courses that I mentioned before was with this teacher, and in that course he was pretty knowledgeable, seemed like he knows his stuff and is a decent teacher. On top of that, it was a 4.3 star rating from over 5,000 students and supposedly last updated at the end of 2021. And with this course, why Kotlin in particular? Because it's a very new programming language. And I thought if I'm gonna do this, I might as well be on the cutting edge of the app development world. Well, with all that, I bought the course and I got going. Now, the first third of the experience worked very well. I was mostly gauging how and when is my best time to do this hour, if I can help it. And well, I found that doing it too early in the morning would cause me to lose focus more easily, or doing it too late would increase the risk of falling asleep significantly, especially if it was a boring subject. And during this time, I did have a slip up of missing a day, but I just made up for it the next day with double the hour, so 2 hours of work. And after the first 10 days, I made this video update of it. So I just finished the day 10 of my 30-day programming challenge. You know, this video that I'm making that you've been seeing me talking about, this is day 10. And so every day I've been writing down just a few words on what I've been doing and how I feel like I've been progressing. Like you probably heard me say, I have very little experience in programming, so it's not completely new to me. And having learned a little bit of many programming languages, it isn't all that new. So the idea of of programming languages and how they work, I already have that. So I do have a bit of an advantage compared to somebody who just is getting into this for the first time, you know? So at day 10, how do I feel like I've progressed? Well, I made my first app today, and it actually works. You can type something out, press a button, and it will print out that stuff in a list. You can't remove anything from the list, but you know, the basic idea of a to-do list is pretty much there. And I really feel like I'm progressing. It's just I'm encountering the same problem why I stopped learning programming through Udemy before, which would be the fact that it just feels like when there's no force pushing you on, like you have no one else who's in the same boat as you, you have much less pressure to actually continue going on, continue moving on. Kind of the freedom to just try stuff with someone else or bounce ideas off of someone else is something that I personally feel very strongly about in my learning. So that is definitely the difficult part when you're trying to learn something new through something like an online class and you have no one else that you know taking it at the same time. But other than that, since this video is my outside force forcing me to continue, I'm going to continue. And I do feel like I'm actually making progress. Part that I'm most glad about is that my first 7 to 8 days were not like software, were not app development. I was not making an app. I was just writing code, which is important, but it just wasn't what I was planning on doing, what I wanted to do. Luckily, from here on out, it's only I'm just going to be making apps and learning that way. So I'm really happy about that. So at day 10, I am hopeful and actually excited to continue on, because this is just where it's going to start ramping up to that stuff that I wanted, that I'm looking for in this course. Back to you, 30-day lowfigh. Nice going, future lowfigh, that you managed to get the 30 days. Thanks, past lowfigh. So as you can see, at the beginning everything was going well. I was slightly frustrated that we didn't get straight into app development, but I understand the reasoning behind that. But the hopefulness, oh, the hopefulness. That guy didn't know what was coming. Now on day 11, with the second app, things started to go downhill, hard. So instead of being taught and learning what had been happening before, suddenly things took a shift, where the instructor's explanations weren't that cohesive anymore, and it was very hard to understand. Sometimes he was just rambling. It was almost like somebody who knows their stuff. They really know what they're talking about, but they don't know how to explain it, or especially know how to teach it. On top of that, one of the methods that the teacher was using constantly wasn't working right for me. So I started troubleshooting, and I actually had to spend a whole day's programming time, the 1 hour, on troubleshooting why my thing wasn't working. Happens to all guys, we've all been there. But what I found was that the method he was using was outdated. Now, having a method that is a little outdated every now and then that's fine most of the time. But in the field of programming and app development, software development, you need to have modern, up-to-date methods for doing stuff. Sometimes the thing that you're using to make it just won't even allow for older ways to doing stuff. And this is especially vital for something like Kotlin, which is a really new coding language, like programming language. It came out in 2011, compared to most of the stuff that you've heard, like Java and stuff like that, came out in the 80s or 90s. So this is the part where I started to try to find out, wait, when was this course made? When was this released? And it doesn't say that anywhere, which was really difficult. It only says that it was updated the 8th of 2021. Okay. So after starting to look for different reviews at how far back we can go and find some reviews and some of the questions and some of the stuff that the teacher is talking about and the versions he's using, I found out that the course was actually made around 2017 or 2018. So if that stuff wasn't updated, he's potentially teaching 5-year-old stuff on a programming language that is only 11 years old. This seriously got me worrying. At this point, doing the course switches over from me learning and doing what I know to just doing whatever it is that the instructor is doing it, without getting a proper explanation as to why I'm doing it or what I'm doing, and the thing that I'm doing is already outdated. So, at day 20, you might understand why my feelings were a little like this. Okay guys, so I just finished day 20 of this, the learning app development in 30 days. You know, you've been in this video for a while. So I finished day 20, and this was a rough week, I think. So this section that I just finished this app that you might be seeing here or somewhere. This whole section was a nightmare. So the guy teaching the course, he constantly kept doing things that he does something and then he says, well, by the way, you really shouldn't do this. So, yeah, we're gonna do it anyway. Why? Just show me the way you should do it, not this way. Yeah, so at day 20, I am really frustrated and annoyed with the course. But yeah, at this point, this was the closest point, as far as I know, at this point, that I was thinking about quitting. Just, it's not worth it. But I didn't. Next YouTube app, I'm done with that section. Apparently it's supposed to get better from here. That's like the worst it's gonna get, but we'll see. Anyway, 10 more days to go. So future me on day 30, take it away. Take this camera away from me now. So yeah, at that point I still thought there was hope, because the Q&A sections were full of people saying that this is as bad as it gets and it gets better from here. They do teach the modern way soon. So I continued. Making the YouTube viewer was an interesting experience. It was positive again. I now understood the things being taught again, but the teacher constantly kept referencing things from the past section. You know, that section where he didn't teach those things properly. But I managed to get to a point where I could watch my YouTube videos on an app that I made. So that was cool, I guess. The final app I would start was an app to view and open and search Flickr images. Does Flickr still exist? Who uses that? Let me know in the comments. Do you use Flickr? What do you use it for? But that section condensed everything that had gone wrong with the course. At this point, the Q&A sections were just full of people expressing their frustration at the constant use of outdated methods. So then on day 27, I finally saw one of the instructors reply to a question: when are we going to be taught the modern method, the up-to-date way of doing this thing? And the response was what crushed all the motivation that I had left. All of it. Don't worry, we teach you the current way of doing things in section 12 on lesson 275. Okay, when is that? Let's see, I'm currently in section 9 on lesson 145. That's 130 lessons later. Okay. Maybe they're short lessons, and it won't be that long. Those 130 lessons added up to 23 hours of lessons. Just the videos, not the challenges and whatnot. Oh, but it gets better. That response was dated 2 years ago. So the thing that we're being taught that is outdated has been outdated for over 2 years, and it still hasn't been updated in this course. For the first 3 quarters of the course, you're taught a method that is over 2 years ago, it was completely outdated. So that the Android Studio actually tells you, do not use this method. From there, I just went through the motions of finishing day 30 because I was invested. I had to do it. It was a thing that I had with myself. I went through the motions, got to day 30. No idea what I did in those 30 days, last 3 days. Just type whatever the instructor told me to type and didn't even care. I didn't care anymore. But here we are on day 30. So what can you take away from this experiment, experience, whatever you call it? Well, despite the experience, I think you can definitely learn programming or app development or pretty much anything by doing it an hour a day. Just gotta be consistent. So if you do it an hour a day, you can't do one day, 1 hour every week. You wouldn't get the repetition. But if you do anything in small increments but constantly, definitely. But if you're gonna use online courses, definitely be more vigilant than I was regarding, and especially if you're getting into programming, look at when the course itself is dated and go look at the ratings and see the most recent ones. Because if there's a majority there that says that the content is outdated, get out. Don't bother with that course. But as a method itself, I think an hour a day was definitely very approachable. I could squeeze it into my busier days. You can't get so much stuff in an hour that you feel completely overwhelmed, especially if you have a good teacher. And I do feel like I have a better understanding of app development in general. Now, would I be able to use the skills that I learned from that course to make a proper app? No, definitely not. Well, that's not completely fair. There's still 30 hours left on that course, but I'm not finishing that. No way. If I do decide to go back and learn app development more, it won't be with that course. Of course, we all learn in different ways, but sometimes it might be valuable to just learn a way that is definitely not meant for you. And for me, this course was it. But then again, I can't see who this course would be for. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it all this way, click the like button and sub if you feel so inclined. As always, I'm lowfigh. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you guys next time. See ya!